I know you all have heard the phrase, everybody makes mistakes countless times in your life, and maybe even said it to console someone and encourage them to not dwell on a misstep. So I'm asking today, why do we let our mistakes overshadow our good decisions and accomplishments? What I know for sure is that mistakes are here to help define us. And when I started the Oprah Winfrey Network, I definitely made some mistakes, some missteps. We launched before we were ready. And I got to tell y'all, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done a lot of things differently. I remember saying at the time, that if I was to write a book about it, I would call it Mistakes 101. Sometimes when you aren't listening to those inner voices and the knowing of your own purpose, you can get off track. And even when I know how to listen, sometimes if I don't listen, I get off track really quickly. You can get in the wrong relationships, or you can do things prematurely, get yourself off track. Well, this is what I know. Every perceived mistake can be an opportunity to know better and do better. And from that perspective, there really is no such thing as failure. We may perceive it that way in the moment, but things always turn around and eventually lead you to the path that you're supposed to be on if you're paying attention. What are you here to do? What are you here to fulfill? What are you here to offer? Maybe it's friendship, companionship, leadership. Maybe you're all the ships, including the mothership that's always steering things forward for the rest of the people in your life. Well, I want you to know this for sure. Life is like a wave, and you ride it through the ups and downs, the steady times, and then you anchor yourself in the storms. A mistake is a life experience designed to move you in a different direction. And a mistake might be more important to your supreme destiny than even a triumph. Know that your life is way bigger than any one experience. So when those mistakes happen, you use them to guide you to the next right move. Learn from it. Ask, what is this here to teach me? And then let it go, because you're always where you need to be. My favorite quote from Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth has gotten me through many a mistake and many a storm. It says, life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. And how do you know this is the experience you need? Because this is the experience you are having at this moment. Whew. That knowing has helped me through many a moment. So I want to ask all of you, what mistake or mistakes have you made in your life that you need to, number one, forgive yourself for? And what mistakes turned out to be blessings in disguise? I'd really like to hear from you. And remember, it's all about progress, not about perfection, because nobody's perfect. It's about progress. So have a progressful week.
Need motivation?
Watch the Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Oprah Winfrey, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, celebrate yourself.
I want to propose something to you all today. I want to propose that you resolve something very powerful, to love who you are right now. And of course, I think that wanting to be your best self and setting goals and intentions is really major. But I remember during a stop on the 2020 Vision Tour, I met this reporter in Miami. We took some photos together, and she said to me, Oprah, next time you see me, I'm going to be so much skinnier. And I replied, well, the next time I see you, hopefully you're going to be as healthy as you can be in that moment. Because right now, this is as healthy as you can be in this moment. And the next time, you'll be as healthy as you can be in that moment. I told her to be kind to herself. And she looked at me and said, how do I do that? Well, it starts with loving right now who you are, all yourself, your flaws. Living in a space of lack, focused on what you don't want or what you don't like about yourself. I promise you, I've learned it doesn't work. Take a moment to look at what is really running through your mind about yourself that may be holding you back. The energy of the universe responds to positivity. And so if you're telling yourself you're not slim enough, you're not good enough, when that negative chatter starts in your head, stops, lean away from it. When you let those thoughts of not being enough seep in, you can't really act out the best of yourself. So your actions must be in alignment with all the goodness and strengths that you know to be true about yourself. So this week, I'm inviting you to put on your happy sweater, wherever it is or whatever that is for you. Quiet all the negative self-talk and allow your confidence, your sense of knowing that better days are ahead to be at the forefront of your thinking. Tomorrow's never promised, so let's accept and then let's celebrate ourselves just where we are right now. Thank you. Thank you for where I am and who I am right now. Let that be the blessing and intention for ourselves this week.
Rule number 3, be fully present.
Years ago, during a crisis at my school, I flew on the weekend from Chicago to South Africa. That's 8,000 miles. I turned around on a Sunday night, came back to Chicago, taped 6 shows, 2 shows a day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then flew back to South Africa again. I don't have to tell you how exhausted I was. And I will tell you this, the only thing that kept me sane and somewhat intact was being able to stay fully present, not stray from the moment that was right in front of me. Being able to do that in a crisis kept me focused, kept me centered, and really more alert for the myriad of challenges that were ahead. It also permanently seared in my consciousness the power of staying present. Because I believe that when you're fully present, that's when you're actually fully alive. You're clearer, you're more calm, you're not distracted and able to experience all the nuance and wonder of a life more awakened. So when we can just tune into what's just in front of us, life becomes simpler and less crowded with the to-dos, the what-ifs, and the why-nots. And when you need to focus on what to do or what to do next, the focus is just that. So deeper human connection comes from that way of operating in the world. And the now becomes your everything. Now, this is what I know, that it's one of the most impactful spiritual practices, knowing the power of now. Because the only moment we all have, you have, I have, is now. Past, already gone. The future, not even your next breath, guaranteed.
Rule number 4, live with integrity.
Living integrity means living in a way that honors your truest self. It's doing the thing that you know you're supposed to do. My friend Martha Beck says that deep down, we all know what makes us happy and how to create your best possible life. And that knowledge is actually coded into your very nature. But I also know how challenging it can be to listen and trust your own inner voice, especially when you feel the pressures of what everybody else thinks you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to get married. You're supposed to stay married. You're supposed to have a baby. You're supposed to have a picture-perfect home. But here's something that I'm hoping you all will realize for yourself. Sometimes it takes doing the things that people or society say you're not supposed to be doing to find out what is true for you. What are you really supposed to be doing? For example, at the very beginning of my career, some of you have heard this story, I worked as a news anchor and reporter in Baltimore. It taught me a lot about life. And during that time, I knew I wasn't being my authentic self. I didn't like doing the news. I just didn't like it. But the voice of my father, who thought he knew what I was supposed to do, and even my own voice saying, wow, this is an important job. My father was saying, don't you give up that job, girl. You're making $25,000. You're never going to make that in 1 year. So eventually, my bosses let their feelings be known. They took me off the news and put me on this local talk show called People Are Talking. And when that decision was made at first, I thought it was a demotion. But after one day on that talk show, I felt so energized and so fueled, I knew that I had come home to myself. And that's what living integrity, even in your work, feels like. So trust me when I say that only you know what that feels like for you. And with that in mind, I want us to be more in alignment with the truth for ourselves this week. Think about everything we've covered in the past several weeks. Who you're meant to be, who you are right now. What have you been waiting and wanting to do? All those insights should fuel your decisions about how you move through the world right now. Pay attention to what makes you feel lit up from the inside. Examine any moments when your head saying one thing and your Spirit is saying another. That means out of alignment.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, let go of negative energy.
Letting go of energy that's clouding your vision and holding you back. It's a life practice that I learned long ago that has freed me, so many ways. It's a fact that holding grudges against somebody who's done you wrong, or revisiting hurtful situations in your head over and over, only weighs you down and prevents you from being who you're meant to be right now, because you're still energetically holding on to the past. The energy that you put into constantly rewinding to the resentment. Why did they do that? Why did they say that to me? I didn't deserve to be treated that way. All of that only keeps you stuck. It will never change what happened. You gotta press stop and reject the urge to keep replaying so that you can then fast forward into the now for yourself. You know, a lot of people think that holding on to things that disempowered them is going to somehow magically turn it around. As I said in my message a couple of weeks ago about forgiveness, you have to release the notion, give up the hope that the past could have been any different. And you also must release the idea that people would do what you might do in any given instance. This is a big one. I had to learn and relearn before I actually got it. Expecting people to do what you would do in a situation only leads to your disappointment, not theirs. They're going on with their life. So let people be who they are, and either you accept it or you don't. Not doing that keeps you stuck in a circumstance that actually costs you time, costs you energy. And I can guarantee that oftentimes the person on the other side of the bitterness you're holding on to, they're not even thinking about you. In fact, they probably have just moved on. They certainly aren't obsessing the way you are. Think of it like letting go of any bad habit that just doesn't serve your well-being. Not an easy task. Taking the road to a more enlightened, healthy existence never is. So this is what I want to ask you to ask yourself. Why am I holding on to this? How is this serving me? And really think about the answer. Maybe it makes you feel validated. Maybe it makes you feel righteous. Or maybe taking on the pain is your way of recognizing the injustice so that even though it won't be made right, it can at least not be forgotten. Then I ask you, again, ask yourself, do you want to be right or do you want peace? Woo! This was huge for me. The unfortunate fact is that having both may not be possible. And also, you may never get your moment of righteousness, so why wait for it? Choose peace. What I know for sure is that in this world, time is a moving on, and it's our most valuable commodity. You can never get it back. So staying in that loop, playing it over and over in your head of hurt only amplifies your pain. Let it go. Exhale, make room in your heart for something that is uplifting. Surround yourself with people who want the best for you. You have the ability to shift the DNA of your spirit and control how you perceive life. So why not lighten your load and let it go?
Rule number 6, create your home.
This week, I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects, cultivating a space that feels like home, where you can exhale and be completely 100% yourself. I believe your home should rise up to meet you when you walk through the door. In fact, I don't think there's anybody who actually appreciates home as much as I do. It makes me think of The Wiz. You remember when Dorothy sings, "When I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing." That kind of sums it up nicely, because your home really should be something more than just a place with four walls. It should feel like the warmest, most comforting hug. It should also be the place where your heart resides. It should feel like even if the space were empty, it would still seem full because you're there. Right before I went off to film The Color Purple, I remember writing in my journal at the time, this is way back in 1985, that one of my biggest dreams for myself was to have a home that would inspire and elevate me. Now, at the time, I was just living out of apartments, and I longed for a place with a beautiful setting that I could surround myself with beautiful things. And that has been a fulfillment of a real dream for me. Having a beautiful home, beautiful space has always been one of my life goals. And so the first place that really felt like home for me was a farm in 1988 I bought in Indiana. My apartment in Chicago was where I lived and crashed after work, but the farm was home. And I remember the first Christmas there, I asked all my friends to please bring ornaments for a Christmas tree because I didn't have any and wanted to start that tradition. And since then, I've continued to carve out spaces for myself where I can go to be with my thoughts or relax and unwind, and that fill me with peace and joy. For example, on any given Sunday, you can find me somewhere under a comforter, relaxing in a corner. I'd like to encourage you to do the same, to channel your inner Dorothy and think about where you feel most at home. Try to finish the sentence. When I think of home, I think of a place where, fill in the blank. What about that space makes you feel at home? And if you're not feeling that, what can you add to the space you're in right now to bring you a greater sense of comfort at home? This week, think about what you can do to create that, because this is what I know. Everybody deserves to feel at home and to be home with themselves. Bring yourself some comfort in your home.
Rule number 7, practice gratitude.
Today, I want to talk about something that I've been saying for years is an essential element of living your best life, and that is practicing gratitude. It is my single most important life practice, I'd have to say. And I know with Thanksgiving coming, many people think about being thankful. There's lots of talk about Thanksgiving and blessings, but that's kind of like going to church on just Christmas and Easter. It counts, but it's not consistent, because for me, gratitude is something that is necessary and should be practiced every day, because making space for appreciating what you have opens you up for a happier, more fulfilled existence, I guarantee, while ensuring that those blessings just keep flowing. This is the truth. It's a law. What you focus on in your life expands. So focusing on what you're grateful for increases positive vibrations and feelings of joy. Just one good feeling builds on another good feeling and another. And if you actively appreciate all that you have in life, no matter how small it is, what you will notice is that you end up having more. And when you hone in on what you don't have, you never have enough. So being grateful, I've learned, allows us to fill in the cracks and crevices between what we desire and what we already have with positivity. So we can pave the way for grace to show up and lead to an even better life. So how do you make gratitude a habit? For me, the first thing I do in the morning is I read some sort of spiritual enlightenment that allows me to start the day with a positive frame of mind that will only help usher in even more positive energy. And for me, that is the Daily Word, which is Christian-based, or the Book of Psalms, also Christian. Mark Nepo's Book of Awakening is just spiritual, no religion, with a daily meditation. And Rumi or Mary Oliver. There's something called Bowl of Sake that I love too. It's a spiritual Sufi teachings that you can download for free into your inbox. But the greatest thing that I've ever done is having a gratitude journal. So I started one over 20 years ago.
Rule number 8, stop wasting time.
I want to ask you something. Does this happen to y'all? The older you get, you find it hard to believe the number you are, because you still feel like you've always felt. At the end of this week, I'm turning 68. I can't even fathom that number, because when I was much younger, 68 felt not just old, it felt ancient. And now, this is what I know, it's just a marker, how many trips you've been around the sun, because we get to determine what that number means for each of us. A good friend asked me recently, did I consider myself retired? And I say, no, I don't. Not a word in my vocabulary. Although I no longer do the show that was a mainstay of my career, I refocused my energy elsewhere, and I'm always staying open to new possibilities and opportunities, like this digital O Daily site. So I'm never closed to new ideas, producing new television dramas for OWN, traveling, speaking once COVID loosens its noose. So for me, as I approach yet another turn around the sun, I truly believe that many more delights are ahead, and I hope that you all feel the same. Barring major health setbacks, age is whatever number you choose to feel. Gail says she feels 45. I don't even have a number because I just feel like now, the present moment, because that's all we ever have. The past is gone, the future's not promised to anybody, and when the future does show up, it's still going to be the now. So I celebrate, and consistently remind myself to stay in this moment, doing whatever this moment requires, giving it my full attention. And in this moment, I feel connected to the source of all things. I feel wise and peaceful and content. And yet, this moment allows me to see it's never too late to reach a new height that you never thought possible, or achieve a new goal. It can be as small as picking up a new hobby to add a little more joy in your day, as radical as moving across the country to pursue the life you've always wanted. Whatever you've dared to desire, I encourage you to pursue it in the hopes of starting a next chapter that is bigger and fuller than anything you've lived thus far. So just keep growing and becoming more of yourself. That's the goal. Through relationships, through challenges, through victories and setbacks, big and small, to recognize that you aren't just living out your days, you are life, expressing itself through your physical body, your personality, your emotions. And it's never too late to take the reins. In the famous lines of Invictus, you are the master of your fate. You are the captain of your soul.
Rule number 9, stand strong.
What can you do when you've done all you can? You just stand. It's one of my favorite gospel songs. Always gives me goosebump fortification when I hear it, especially when Donnie McClurkin sings, prayed and cried, prayed and cried. After you've done all you can, you just stand. Well, I read a story today about a 65-year-old Ukrainian woman who used to pride herself on her beautiful embroidery work and now is sewing bulletproof vests for soldiers, and grateful to still be standing to fight the war. And it got me thinking about what it means to keep standing in the face of the most grave adversity. Another story, a man named Yuri huddled in a church basement saying, "It's hell here. Imagine 200 people sitting in one room for 2 days. We can't even breathe fresh air." Well, I don't want to imagine it, but I know we are not supposed to turn away as the days drag on and the Ukrainian people keep standing in the face of such terror and devastation. So in our own lives, what can we do to keep standing for what's right, what's just, for what will bring us peace? Martha Beck says, peace is our home. You deserve peace. What can you do this week to take a stand for peace in your own life and the lives of those that you love, and make it so? Let me know in the comments below, because I love hearing from you. And we know that what the world needs from all of us is more peace.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is don't wait for life to happen.
Now would be the perfect time to ask, what are you waiting for? What's the dream that you've been putting off pursuing until you have more money, or you have more courage, or you have more time? That last reason, more time, always kind of baffles me, because you can work your fingers to the bone, scrimp and save to build your nest egg. You can work the nerve to take a big leap, but you cannot work to add more time to the clock or guarantee more days in your life. A few years ago, I had the pleasure of interviewing television powerhouse Shonda Rhimes about what moment most changed her life. And here's what she shared. She said, possibly 9/11, but in a positive, strange way, because it was the thing that made me once again wake up and say, if the world's going to end tomorrow, there are things I need to do. And that's what drove me to sort of adopt my first daughter. That's what she said. So this coming Saturday, we all know, marks the 20th anniversary of this tragic day in our lives, when the lives of nearly 3,000 people were taken in New York City, at the Pentagon, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And to this day, I can tell you, I can be doing the most ordinary thing, like bending over to tie my shoe or hanging up my robe in the closet, when I suddenly think the people who died that day did the exact same thing. They all did those ordinary things before leaving for work and expected to do it again the next day, but they never got the chance. So all death teaches us, I believe, about life. This week, as we reflect on the lives and the dreams lost on 9/11, I encourage you to also think about how that tragedy, how those deaths can move us to live differently. Whatever you've been putting off, today, I'm here to tell you is the day to start, even if that means taking the smallest, teensy-tiniest step forward, because really, what are you waiting for? Have a great week, everybody. And remember, even if it's teensy-tiniest, I don't even know if that's a word, if it's a teensy, tiny step, take that step now. Don't wait. I remember when I started the school and I said to my beloved friend, Maya Angelou, I said, Maya, I'm just so proud that I was able to create this school. And I said, this is going to be my greatest legacy. And Maya said to me, you have no idea.
Right.
You have no idea what your legacy will be, she said to me, because your legacy is every life you've touched. And that shifted the way I saw legacy or what you leave behind or what you do. Because Maya was explaining to me that, over all the years of watching your show, everybody who decided that they were going to go back to school or lose weight or no longer hit their children or get out of a bad marriage, all of those people who have seen and experienced your voice. And the same thing with everybody here. You have no idea what your legacy will be. Your legacy is every life that you've touched. And we like to think of it, I know you have done amazing things with your philanthropy. We like to think that these great philanthropic moments are the ones that leave the impact or will make the huge difference in the world. But it's really what you do every day. It's how you use your life to be a light to somebody else's, and it's how you use your work as an expression of your own art, whatever that is. When I first started as a broadcaster, I was 19, very insecure, thrown into television, pretending to be Barbara Walters, looking nothing like her, and still going to college. So I do all my classes in the morning from 8 to 1, and then in the afternoon I work from 2 to 10 and did the 6 o'clock news. And would stay up and study and all that stuff, until 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then just start the routine all over again. And my classmates were so jealous of me that I remember taking my little $115 paycheck, and at the time I thought it was really a lot, but taking $115 and trying to appease them. I would always, anytime anybody needed money, I was always offering, oh, you need $10, or taking them out for pizza, ordering pizza for the class and things like that. That whole disease to please, that's where it was the worst for me, I think, because I wanted to be accepted by them and could not be, because first of all, I didn't have the time. They wanted me to pledge, and I didn't have the time to pledge. I didn't have the time to be a part of all the other college activities or a part of that whole lifestyle. And it was very difficult for me socially, really one of the worst times of my life, because I was trying to fit in school and be a part of that culture, but also trying to build a career in television. It's very difficult for me to even see myself as successful, because I still see myself as in the process of becoming successful. To me, successful is getting to the point where you are absolutely comfortable with yourself, and it does not matter how many things you have acquired. The ability to learn to say no and not to feel guilty about it, to me, is about the greatest success I have achieved. The fact that I have, in the public side, done whatever is fine. It's all a part of a process for growing for me. But to me, to have the kind of internal strength and internal courage it takes to say, no, I will not let you treat me this way, is what success is all about. It's the same thing that prevents you from being abused as a child, that prevents you from being abused as an adult, that allows you to build success for yourself. I will not be treated this way. I demand only the best for myself. You are worthy to say no. That it's okay if you say no. It's okay if you say no and then people don't like you. That's really okay. The important thing is how you feel about what you're doing, how you feel about yourself. It's a long struggle, though. It's a long struggle. And I'm just hoping that, in the work that I do on the show and the speaking that I do around the country, and that young people who are watching this can get the lesson sooner than I did. Because it's painful, because you keep repeating it over and over and over until you get it right. And what I found is that every time you have to repeat the lesson, it gets worse. Because I call it God trying to get your attention, the universe trying to get your attention. So we didn't get your attention the first time, so we're going to have to hit you a little harder this time. So I'm still doing it. I'm still learning. Turn your wounds into wisdom. You will be wounded many times in your life. You'll make mistakes. Some people will call them failures. But I have learned that failure is really God's way of saying, excuse me, you're moving in the wrong direction. It's just an experience. Just an experience. Just an experience. I remember being taken off the air in Baltimore, being told that I was no longer being fit for television and that I could not anchor the news because I used to go out on the stories. And my own truth was, even though I'm not a weeper, I would cry for the people in the stories, and which really wasn't very effective as a news reporter, to be covering a fire and crying because the people lost their house. And it wasn't until I was demoted as a on-air anchorwoman and thrown into the talk show arena to get rid of me that I allowed my own truth to come through. And the first day I was on the air doing my first talk show back in 1978, it felt like breathing, which is what your true passion should feel like. It should be so natural to you. And so I took what had been a mistake, what had been perceived as a failure with my career as an anchorwoman in the news business, and turned it into a talk show career that's done okay for me. Create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life, because you become what you believe. When I was a little girl, Mississippi, growing up on the farm, only buckwheat as a role model, watching my grandmother boil clothes in a big iron pot through the screen door because we didn't have a washing machine and made everything we had. I watched her and realized somehow inside myself, in the spirit of myself, that although this was segregated Mississippi and I was colored and female, that my life could be bigger, greater than what I saw. I remember being 4 or 5 years old. I certainly couldn't articulate it, but it was a feeling, and a feeling that I allowed myself to follow. I allowed myself to follow because if you were to ask me what is the secret to my success, it is because I understand that there is a power greater than myself that rules my life. And in life, if you can be still long enough in all of your endeavors, in the good times, the hard times, to connect yourself to the source. I call it God. You can call it whatever you want, to the force, nature, Allah, the power. If you can connect yourself to the source and allow the energy that it is your personality, your life force, to be connected to the greater force, anything is possible for you. I am proof of that. I think that my life, the fact that I was born where I was born, and the time that I was, and have been able to do what I've done, speaks to the possibility, not that I am special, but that it could be done.
What drives you to keep working so hard? You and I are in the 60s category, and so when you're in your 60s, you've lived more than you're going to live, realistically. So when you realize you've lived more than you're going to live, you can say, why not relax a little bit? Why not just ease up? Why have you decided to even work harder than you did before?
Because I think, David, that everybody, the thing that works for me all these years, whether it was the magazine or which I still have, or whether it was the show, I understood that there's a common denominator in the human experience. And I want the same thing you want, which is the same thing you want and you want. What we all want is to be able to live out the truest, highest expression of ourselves as a human being. That doesn't end until you take your last breath. What is the truest, highest vision that you hold for yourself? No matter where you are in your life, there's always the next level. There's always the next level to the last breath. So I feel that I always knew that I would be done with the show when I felt like, oh, I've said as much as I could say here on this platform. And then how will I be used? If there were a theme song to my life, Amazing Grace would be one of them, and Keep On Using Me Till You Use Me Up would be another one. You know that Bill Withers song? Yes. So I feel that until you have used your value as a human being, you're not done.
We have to make the choice every single day to channel our own inner Jacindas, to exemplify the truth and the respect and the grace that we actually wish for the world. We need to tell it, as we're doing at this conference. We need to write it. We need to sing it. We need to proclaim it. We need to be it. We need to be the truth. We have to be the respect. We have to be the fierceness, the love that we want to see. And when we do that, mark my words, a change is already coming. I wake up in the morning.
What you do?
And the first thing I say is thank you. Yes. That's my first thing. Even before I'm awake, even before my eyes are really fully open, I say thank you. I can feel the gratitude, like, ooh, I'm still here. I'm in a body. Thank you so much. I thank you for that.
Gratitude.
And then I go through the letting the dogs out, the whole, brushing your teeth and all that stuff. And then I have either silence or prayer or something that acknowledges that I'm still here. I do not reach for that phone first. That's your problem.
That's my problem.
That's your problem. My television career began unexpectedly. As you heard this morning, I was in the Miss Fire Prevention contest. That was when I was 16 years old in Nashville, Tennessee, and you had the requirement of having to have red hair in order to win up until the year that I entered. So they were doing the question and answer period because I knew I wasn't going to win in the swimsuit competition. So during the question and answer period, the question came, why, young lady, what would you like to be when you grow up? And by the time they got to me, all the good answers were gone. So I had seen Barbara Walters on the Today Show that morning. So I answered, I would like to be a journalist. I would like to tell other people's stories in a way that makes a difference in their lives and the world. And as those words were coming out of my mouth, I went, whoa, this is pretty good. I would like to be a journalist. I want to make a difference. Well, I was on television by the time I was 19 years old. And in 1986, I launched my own television show with a relentless determination to succeed. At first, I was nervous about the competition, and then I became my own competition, raising the bar every year, pushing myself as hard as I knew. Sound familiar to anybody here? Eventually, we did make it to the top, and we stayed there for 25 years. The Oprah Winfrey Show was #1 in our time slot for 21 years. And I have to tell you, I became pretty comfortable with that level of success. You have no idea of the power of noticing another human being and what it feels like when somebody knows that they have been seen, truly seen by you. It is the greatest offering you can give. And all those years of the Oprah Show, the greatest lesson I learned was that, after every show, someone would say invariably in one way or another, how was that? I'd finish an interview with a father who killed his twin daughters. I'd finish an interview with a politician, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, George Bush, Beyonce. They all say the same thing. How was that?
And so I started to see that there's this common thread in our humanity where everybody wants to know, how was that? Did I do okay? Did you hear me? And did what I say mean something to you? So I would have to say that recognizing that in other people has helped me to become, a person of compassion, a person of understanding, a person who can interview anybody about anything, because I know that the core of you is the same as the core of me. You just want to be heard. One of the things I started to get around mid to late 90s is that everybody that I had on the show, at the end of the show, would say something to me like, was that okay? Was that okay? How was that? Was that okay?
Right.
At the end of the interview. And I started to then track it. It didn't matter if it was, I had gone and done a show where I was in a prison, and I was interviewing a father who was in jail for life for murdering his twin daughters. And at the end of the interview, even behind bars, he said to me, "Is that okay? How'd I do?" And Barack Obama said it when he sat in the chair the first time, and George Bush said it, Beyonce said it at the end of she taught me how to twerk and then said, "Is that okay?"
Right. So that's an acquired skill, right?
Yes, a networking thing. But this is what I learned sitting in that chair for 25 years, that at the end of the day, whether you are interviewing me or I get to interview you, whatever your profession is, wherever you are in your life, in your relationships, every person that you encounter, every experience, the person wants to know, was that okay? Was that okay? And what I started to hear was that what people are really saying is, did you hear me? Did you hear me? And did what I say mean anything to you? And so I started to listen with that in mind, with that intention of validating that you're being here, you're speaking to me, you're taking the time to do this with me is important because you matter. And that's true for everybody who's watching or listening, that every argument that you ever have, every encounter, the person just wants to know, did you hear me? Did you see me? And did I say anything that mattered?
Everything you try to do is already done. So when I figured that out, what I'm putting out is what's coming back, let me get real clear about what it is I'm putting out. Real clear. So I read a book about 1989 called Seed of the Soul. And in that book, Gary Zukav talked about the laws of karma, of the laws of cause and effect, the third law of motion. And in that book, he talked about how your intention is always one with the law. Meaning, before you even think about a thing, you have an intention for the thing. And that the intention is going to determine the outcome. That's why the same people can go to the same church service and somebody walk down the aisle just to be seen to put some money in the church, and somebody else who just goes and just has a little bit to offer. The intention with which you give, the intention with which you serve determines the outcome. So when I figured that out, I went, whoa. I changed everything I did on my show. I called in the producers and I said, from this day forward, I will no longer be speaking to the KKK. I will no longer be speaking to people who are fighting each other in a way that it is damaging to the character of myself and other people who watch. From this day forward, I am only going to do intentional television. Every single day, I would have a pre-show meeting and have the producers come in and state to me, what is your intention? How do we want to use whoever is on this show, whatever is happening on this show, to serve the audience in a way that fulfills the mission of uplifting, enlightening, encouraging, as well as entertaining. And if it doesn't do that, then I can't do it. I can't put my name on it.
When I started the magazine, they said, you will not see a profit for at least the next 5 years, and we were profitable the first month, the second month, and have been since. And so I thought, oh, okay, those predictions, that is not really not true. I had no idea how difficult it would be. However, I am really, there's an old spiritual that says, wouldn't take nothing from a journey now. I really was speaking to Stedman this morning. He was saying, it's a good thing that you went through that because you were living on the mountaintop for the past 25 years. You created this machine of the Oprah show that it just felt like walking into, okay, here we go. So no struggle, it had become easy for me to do. So to be in a position to build from scratch this network and to go through everybody thinking it was going to fail, and there were days when I had doubts myself, like, I had to force myself to actually practice what I have preached for years about going inside, staying with the vision, having every step move you in the direction of the vision and trusting that, building the right team.
When you're saying, I know who I am, and I'm telling you, it's the thread that runs through everything. It's the thing that allows you to stand in your own truth. And one of the things for years that Maya Angelou used to say to me is, baby, you need to know that you alone are enough. You alone are enough.
I went through some tough times after I left the Oprah show. I made a conscious decision that I did not want to be sitting on TV with the Oprah show and y'all saying, she should have left that show. That show was really good 2 years ago. I made a conscious decision that when I felt I had said all that I could say and the audience had heard it, that I would move on and that I would not spend my life regretting or trying to hold on to what used to be or hold on to what I had. So I dreamed this dream of starting a network. And in the beginning, it was a struggle. It was a struggle because honest to goodness, I did not know what I was doing. I was trying to figure it out. I thought that the Oprah show audience would follow us to OWN, and then I realized y'all didn't have cable. And if you had cable, you did not have the OWN package. So it took me a minute. And unlike most people who you get to have your mistakes in private, some don't go right in your life, you get to sulk about it in private. If I make a mistake, it's on the CNN crawl or the CNN news. So when I was in the climb and there were so many wonderful owners, I see Churl Action Jackson here. There were so many wonderful owners, people who said, oh, we're gonna stand with you. We're gonna stand by you. Thank you, Roland Martin. There were so many people who said, listen, we believe that this can happen. So I dreamed the dream, along with Tyler Perry, who was my friend, who came to me and said, Tyler said, I'm gonna help you out, because Tyler can go home and write a script and direct it, produce it, and shoot it, and do it for less money than anybody in Hollywood. So we started with the foundation of have and have nots. If loving you is wrong, love thy neighbor, Mama Hattie. And then I started to dream another dream about scripted television, because in the beginning I was told you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it, didn't have enough money to do it. And I dreamed the dream. I read Proverbs 11:28 that says, those who trust in their riches will fall, but the righteous will rise and thrive like a green leaf.
I started feeling like, I think everybody knows, I've moved my whole life on instinct, you know? I feel like now it's time to let the show go. I feel like it's time to move on because I've grown as much as I can grow. When I've grown as much as I can grow in a space, that's my instinct to move.
You came from very modest circumstances. You didn't come from a wealthy family.
Well, modest is not the word.
Well, I was trying to be polite.
I mean, I was actually poor. And a lot of the girls at my school, actually all the girls from my school are poor. And I was saying to them just recently, I was just in South Africa for a graduation, you all are come from the same circumstances. You are poor. And one of the girls raised her hand and said, I don't like using that word. I go, well, if you're not poor, then you should excuse yourself, because that's why I'm paying for you, because you're in this school. So if you're not poor, you don't like the choice of the word. So I don't have a problem with the word. I don't have any shame about it. I think, probably earlier in my life or career, the word would have bothered me. But it was, I was poor. No running water, David, or electricity, living with an outhouse. Okay, that's poor. I teach them that there is no life without cultivating a spiritual life, because you are first and foremost a spiritual being having a human experience. And if you lose sight of that, it's easy to get lost in the world, and no one can save a world that they're lost in when they've lost sight of their own North Star. So having a spiritual life actually means actively and ritually creating the space in your life all the time for gratitude, for kindness, for empathy, for inspiration, for joy, and for reverence for life in the home of your soul first. And then working to spread that inner joy outward. It means slowing down. It means taking in the moment. It means being exactly where you are, not distracted somewhere else. It means knowing who you are and getting about the business of fulfilling why you really came to our planet. It is your job to make yourself whole. Not perfect, but whole and full. Your real work in life, your real work, is to fill yourself till your cup runneth over, so that you're never grasping and needy, clamoring and insecure. But you can live your life assured in your worthiness and your right to be here and to become the best version of yourself as a woman being.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.